the San Francisco 49ers just received an interesting but brutally honest roadmap for the future that I think bears discussion. The 49ers' chances to make the playoffs are down to single digits, and even if they pull off incredible results in the final stage of the season, it still doesn't look very good. In this video, we're talking about next steps for the 49ers, and I'm definitely going to need you to chime in on this one in the comments section. If you're new here, I'm Nate. I make daily 49ers content. Subscribe if that's what you're looking for. But today's crucial question that I need you to help me out in the comments is, where do we go from here, 49ers fans? Where do we go from here? What does the organization do from here? For staff, for roster, what do the 49ers do? I'm going to tell you the realistic but harsh recommended roadmap in about 45 seconds, but just a super quick look at what the 49ers' chances look like in the playoffs. If they go and win all the games except for the two hardest, right? Even if they do that, it's only a 24% chance of making the playoffs. Now, you pull out a win against the Bills, that helps your odds really good, but let's assume that's not going to happen because there are a lot of signs pointing to that not happening. If you don't beat the Lions, NFC rival, of course, you still could technically have an 80% chance of making the playoffs after losing to the Bills, which is pretty wild. If you win out after that, you still have an 80% chance. But let's be real. Even if you do that, yeah, beating the Lions, I guess maybe you've done what it takes to show that maybe you can do something in the playoffs. But this season is feeling really bad. This is feeling like this is not feeling like it's going to go the 49ers' way. And we're going to break down more of that in a few minutes here. I'm not even going to bother doing game notes because I think you've seen enough from game notes. Maybe I'll reference it, but goodness gracious, what a horrible performance yesterday. So is it possible that the 49ers make the playoffs? Yes. Is it likely? Far from it. I mean, ridiculously far from it. Even if everybody is healthy, we're obviously in a tough spot. Here's what Colin Cowherd, probably not your favorite voice in sports talk, but here's what he suggests the 49ers do next. I think it's at least worth listening to and discussing. Here's what he had to say.
San Francisco is like an old boxer. Last year, hanging on, had one last good fight, stopped drafting receivers, rebuild the O-lines and D-lines.
Let me pause there real quick. Okay, let me pause there. So first, the old boxer thing. I'm not sure I'd go as far as to say an old boxer, but this team does look old and slow. So I do get where he's coming from there in terms of in that particular aspect. I think there's actually another reason that's actually happening. That's coming later in the show. We'll get to there. But let me let Cowherd continue his point. He just started saying that he feels like the 49ers need to go in there, stop drafting wide receivers, and start focusing on their lines. And the 49ers in the trenches this season have been pretty bad. So I'm not going to argue with that. We were fortunate that Dominic Purdy pick was a fantastic third-round pick that made a massive difference for this football team, but there's still huge, gaping holes, and you've got an aging Trent Williams. You don't know what he's going to have in future seasons. So I would say that Cowherd's not wrong there, and I would think that's probably not that controversial among 49ers fans. I think most of you would agree that's where the 49ers need to be spending that really high draft capital. But let me let him continue here before we go on.
Bosa's hurt, Kittle's hurt, McCaffrey's hurt. I think San Francisco has to hyper-aggressively reboot the franchise.
Well, it's tough when you're paying all these guys all this money. I think the best thing that could happen to them, because they're not making the playoffs, keep losing these games. If you're the 49ers, you want to be drafting 7th, not 15th, right? Because we know quarterbacks usually go, and that gives you an opportunity to get one of the best players on the board.
Okay. Very interesting there. Again, I think there's a little bit of debate about the word he used, reboot. So I don't know. I'm not exactly 100% sure what he means when he says reboot, because he said aggressively, drastically, he's using intense language. So I'm guessing what he means is like a total reboot, a complete reboot. And if you're going there, that's fine. You're welcome to go there. You are, of course, that's within your right as a fan to suggest whatever you want to suggest, of course. By the way, while we're on that one, I did do a poll related to this question here, because when I think of the word reboot or retool, I don't see that as a complete restructuring of everything. I don't see that burn it all down and start from there. So I did do a poll on this. I'll show you what the results are so far. It's still early on in the poll. 50% of fans on my channel at least are saying, so you're telling me there's a chance? Okay, like I'm not giving up yet. The season's not over. There's a lot of games. They still have a shot to make the playoffs. If you win out, you have like a 97% chance, 98% chance of going to the playoffs there, right? Basically, as long as one person, or one team, either Seattle or the Cardinals, don't win out for the entire season. Basically, that's your way into the playoffs. But 34% saying play the rookies, retool for 2025, which is where I'm at. And 14% saying burn it down and rebuild. We'll see how that poll ages later on, but I think it's really interesting. Now, again, I'm not sure what Cowherd's trying to say exactly. I don't know that this is a tank it kind of season. It's a tank it kind of season. Of course it is, if you could just tank it, because I don't think the 49ers, I don't think most teams in the NFL would tank it or do tank it. That's just not really a thing that really happens. Too many people's jobs are on the line to just tank it. Brock Purdy is not just going to tank it. He's in a contract year. We're talking about the literal difference in tens of millions of dollars for Brock Purdy. So he's not going to go out there and just tank it this season. I can't see that happening. Now, are there things that could happen that, I'm not going to go into that conspiracy yet. We can maybe talk about that if there's some weird things that happen and you ask that question. Are they tanking? Whatever. That's a conversation for another day, not today. My question for you, and I'd really love your feedback in the comments, is on that poll. The same thing I just asked in the poll, right? Are you in burn it down mode? Are you in reboot, retool, fix some things? You're going to have to make some changes on staff, some changes in the roster, whatever. Are you there, or are you in hold up now, hold on. There's still a chance, okay? Let's not just throw the season out. There's still several games left to go. There's still a shot. The 49ers make it to the playoffs. The NFC West is really open, whatever. You tell me where you're at in the comments. I look forward to seeing it there. For me, I'm in retool mode. I'm not in throw the whole season out, whatever mode. But I'm in realistically, what are the 49ers going to really do this season? Realistically. Are the 49ers going to go out there? Even if Brock Purdy and company, this offense can figure out a way to get humming in the next several games. Okay, even if that happens, is the defense going to be able to hold up? Because it didn't look very good last night. I understand last night's a little bit of I don't know, maybe you can't really say that, but it did not look good yesterday. That was a real problem. The defense were a real problem. On top of that, and they had some good drives in there. They had a good stretch of drives, actually, like maybe 5 or 6 drives in there that were actually really decent, and they were doing a good job. The problem was it was a little too late by that point. The 49ers were kind of already way behind the 8 ball. Now, the question, though, being, even if the offense kind of figures things out, even if you get guys back and everybody's back healthy and all that kind of stuff happens, you get Dre Greenlaw back or whatever, will special teams allow you to stay in this thing? I just don't know. There's too many ifs out there, too many question marks out there. There's too many guys, even on the offensive side of the ball, who are not playing up to their level, all right? Like Deebo Samuel. He's not playing up to his level right now, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, even if things get working, I just don't see it. So I understand the tank, reality. Tank, get a great draft pick, keep going, whatever. I guess that would be in the reboot kind of phase, because you're still thinking this team still got some stuff. I guess it could be either, but whatever. The point is, the 49ers, I don't think that things are looking very good for them. I don't think that the playoffs are a genuine, realistic consideration, and I think the conversation needs to start turning toward who's going to be on this team next year. That's what the next several games look for you if you don't make the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs, you're looking at your team and you're saying which staff members and which roster members are not going to be on this team going forward. So that's my question to you, I guess, the follow-up question, because you got guys like this here. Jordan Mason, this was what he was looking at after his first move, maybe second, right? He's 5 steps in, and he's looking at, he ends up making the move inside, and that plays that move away from the corner, but he was looking in a pretty good position there. He got a fantastic run out of it. And he didn't get anything else for the rest of the game, basically. You just didn't see Jordan Mason hardly at all getting any carries. That's an issue for sure. So if I'm, looking at this as a retool, reboot kind of situation, again, using Cowherd's words, although I'm not 100% sure that's what he intended, I want to see more Jordan Mason. I want to see Christian McCaffrey continue to rehab, get him out there, get him touches, whatever. Like, I don't have a problem with McCaffrey being out there because obviously he's the guy. When he's healthy, he's the guy. He was just coming off an OPOY season. So I'm not saying throw him out, but goodness, you got to give this kid more touches for sure. Give him more snaps. I'd like to see Isaac Guerrero out there too. I think there are a lot of question marks all throughout this team. You have question marks on the offensive line. You have question marks, I guess, at wide receiver. You have question marks for sure on the defensive line. There's a lot of question marks that need to be answered for the defensive line. And you got guys like Leonard Floyd over here somewhere. Yeah, Leonard Floyd, 5 pressures, 2 sacks, a pair of stops in the run game. Leonard Floyd had a good game in Bosa's absence. Now, we're not getting that same production out of him when Bosa's on the field, and maybe there's a question mark about that. But I would like to see with Bosa coming back, hopefully this weekend, I would really like to see how Leonard Floyd looks. That would be really interesting. You've still got guys like George Kittle. Although he's getting older, he's having an incredible season, and he seems to be the only guy on this team who's out there, really putting everything on the line to be as good as the 49ers really can be, and he's trying to get every single thing out of it. So if you're with me on the question is, what do the 49ers do going forward, and who do they have going forward? Who's going to be on this staff? Who's going to be on this roster? I think you have to then answer the question, what's the real problem? What's the real root cause of the 49ers being so bad this year, even in the games they win, being so bad and letting teams get back into it, not being able to beat any difficult opponents? Not difficult, that's not the right word, because the NFL's hard. Every team is difficult. Not beating teams that are winning record teams that are winning other games. You're beating teams that are losing games, right? So all of that, I think the real question is, what's the real problem? And I thought Adam Schefter had a very interesting insight into what he thinks the problem is. Give this a listen.
The whole year, to me, has felt off with them. And it wasn't like it just happened late, but there have been a series of incidents that they've had to overcome throughout where it just felt like it was never going to be their year. That's how I felt all along. Now, you keep...
Okay, so let's pause there. The whole year has felt off, I quote. It wasn't just like it happened late. There have been a series of incidents that you've had to overcome throughout where it just felt like it was never going to be their year. And if every 49ers fan is honest, we all felt that this season. We felt that when we won bad games. We didn't feel great about the win. We felt bad about the wins, a lot of them. We didn't feel great after the losses, especially the games that you gave up, your divisional opponents, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams, especially. Games that you should have won, could have won, up by double digits, and you lost. Those are games that you don't just, it's not just losing. It's an emotional loss. It's an intense way to lose because it was a game you had within your grasp. So, yes, they're still in the race for the playoffs, and yeah, they're going to feel great looking at the NFC West standings and say, hey, it's still here for us. It's not over yet. And I believe that. That's 100% true. But you're not going to look at the schedules right now for the 49ers, for any teams, and think that the 49ers schedule is in any way optimal compared to all of the other teams in the NFC West. But let's keep going, because we're answering the question now what the real problem is, and I thought this was a fantastic tweet from David Lombardi. Again, you don't have to like everything that he says. He's getting a lot of heat for a Deebo Samuel comment that he made after he had that fantastic return that was called back on a hold. Again, the poor guy, geez Louise. But, the tweet was made in the moment that happened, and then the rest of the game happened, and you really don't want to be you're not on the right side of making positive tweets about Deebo Samuel after that game. So then he starts to get heat from it. Whatever. Here's what he had to say that I thought was really good. There's some good value here. 12 playoff games since 2019, 60 games over the 3 seasons entering this one, the worst 2024 net rest differential in the NFL. You look at all those things together, and you're like, yeah, I guess I understand why the odds are in the favor of a Super Bowl hangover, right? We knew 2024 would be a severe challenge for the 49ers and that their rookies would have to infuse energy. The rookies, starting with Purdy, who had his worst game Sunday, but has otherwise been solid, and Mustafa have done their part. The 49ers can and must build on that success in their longer-term retooling process. Interesting point here, but the rookies were never going to carry this team, and they shouldn't have been asked to do that, I'll add. They're simply an energy-boosting supplement at this point. Star power and the staff must be SF's locomotive. Its availability will determine how competitive the 49ers are the rest of the season as they build that bridge to 2025. I think this is a really good piece of insight into what's going on with the 49ers and why they're playing as poorly as they are when you consider the net rest differential by itself and how the 49ers have had everything against them. They've got the entire NFL looking at them saying, that's the team to beat. That's the team we have to go prove ourselves against, right? Before the season starts, that's what everyone's thinking. So every team is giving their best effort against the 49ers. On top of that, you've got teams coming in always seem to be more rested than you are. The Chiefs came in more rested. We got the Bills coming up. They're going to be more rested. I mean, it's just an absolute nightmare schedule for the 49ers coming off of so many seasons going deep in the playoffs. So many games these players have had to play. So I guess maybe the question then is, are the old, slow 49ers old and slow because they're old and slow, or are the old and slow 49ers old and slow because they're just worn out? And a long offseason, as much as that would suck for us, a long offseason might be what they need. You know, it's a fair question. I think it's obviously not that simple. I think it's case by case. You look at guys like Trent Williams, who's not having his best season, but he's having a good season. You know, from what we've grown to love about Trent Williams, it's not been a good season, but compared to the rest of the NFL and the majority of the NFL, it's been a good season for Trent Williams. You look at some other guys like George Kittle, who age-wise and injury-wise, you'd say he's getting old. And maybe he's lost a step in speed, I guess, but it's not hurt him. He's been pretty dang productive regardless of that. So there's a lot here to discuss. I look forward to joining you in the comments on all of this. Let me know where you think the 49ers need to go, what they need to do next, and whether you think the 49ers are in retool reboot. If it's dumpster fire, throw it all away, start over from scratch, and let me know what you mean by scratch. Like everybody? Does that mean all the coaches? You like completely burn it all down? Or are you thinking, hey, slow your roller, slow the roller, slow, I don't know, something like that. And really focus on the opportunities that are still in front of you until the season's over. It's not over. You keep playing every single game because that's what players do. And that's how you're going to get your swagger back. You're not going to get your swagger back by losing out for the rest of the season and having a really high draft pick. You're going to get your swagger back by going out there and winning games, okay? And I'll give you the example, okay? Very different situation, but the Detroit Lions, just a few seasons ago, they were that team. The playoffs were out, and they won out the rest of the season. I think it was 7 games. They won their last 7 games going off into the offseason. And so maybe that's what the 49ers need to do. I don't want to see the 49ers completely throw the season away. I'm not there, at least not yet. But I do believe that it's very clear that this 49ers team is going to look a lot different next year. It's going to have to look a lot different next year. I don't think that your star power right now is giving you the star power that you need, and it's clear that the 49ers, without their star power that they need, the Nick Bosas of the world, they're not going to get it done. They just aren't. So that's a sucky thing, but you know what? Things are not looking great. But either way, we always say go Niners, right?